Hi, I'm Marcus with the IndieMusicLab.com. Welcome back to the Remakes series where we recreate the productions for some of the best songs out there and discover what we can learn from them, as well as how we can apply these principles and concepts to our own productions to make our own songs better. Today I'm going to be remaking and breaking down the classic song Mr. Brightside by The Killers. This is going to be so much fun. Let's dive in and I'm going to walk you through everything. So if you're able to, I highly recommend following along in your own DAW, whichever one you use, and recreate this song with me, because that is how you're going to get the max benefit from this video. Alright, let's dive in and recreate Mr. Brightside. Here we go. Okay, so I might be a little bit more organized than I have been in the past with these remakes because I think that'll help you out if it's a little bit more compartmentalized. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the vocals and look at everything that I did when it comes to the vocals, and then we'll move on to electric guitars, bass, and drums. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and play this from the intro and we'll start the verse. Just ignore everything else except the vocals for now, and then we'll come around and make sure that we cover everything else in this remake. Here we go.
Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want it all. Started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this? It was only a kiss, it was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep and she's calling the cab while he's having a smoke and she's taking a drag.
Okay, so let's look at what we have going here with the vocals. So as you can hear there, it starts out with just a solo vocal in the verse.
Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down.
And then I've got those two little doubles coming in at certain words, which is exactly what happens in the original.
Because I want it all. Started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this? It was only a kiss, it was only a kiss.
Now let's dive into the processing on this lead vocal. So I'm going to mute these doubles again, and we're going to hone in on what exactly I did as far as mixing this lead vocal. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that's a long plugin chain, but it's really not, because a lot of this is just EQ and compression, that's most of it, with some distortion and saturation. So let's start from the very top here. And then by the very top, I mean the very top, because in Studio One, we have the option of adding basically a console emulation, so it saturates it a little bit. And I put this on every bus as well as the main output for this track. If you have like Virtual Tape Machine from Slate Digital or really anything from Slate, you can use those to get this exact same kind of effect. Studio One just has this built in, so that's what I rule with here. So with all these plugins turned off, let's go step by step and walk through everything that we're doing here.
Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want.
See how it warms it up a little bit with the console emulation there. Now, let's get started. I just threw a tiny bit of auto-tune. This is doing pretty much nothing. It's very, very subtle. I didn't necessarily need it, but I thought it could use a little bit of tightening on the vocal.
It all. Started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this?
It isn't doing much. So especially if you're doing rock, generally on rock vocals, you don't want a lot of auto-tune. And again, if I was releasing this song to the public, like on Spotify, or if this was an original, I probably would use Melodyne and only use it on specific notes that need it. Because for this kind of vocal, I don't want to add a bunch of auto-tune. It's going to suck the life right out of it. So the second plugin on the chain here is just a compressor, but this is actually just a de-esser. This is de-essing, and in Studio One, it's by using the filter function, filter sidechain here. Whenever those S's and T's pop through, it shoots that down in volume, as you can see here.
I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want it all.
So that's just doing a little bit of de-essing to make sure those S's are tamed and not protruding too much in the mix. All right, the next thing we have is just a standard EQ. This is the exact EQ cuts that I do by default because I know my lead vocal. I know how my vocal sounds. And so this is something that you have to develop for yourself. But a rule of thumb generally is a cut somewhere in the low mid-range between 300 and 400 hertz. For me, it's like around 380. That's often where I make a 3 to 5 dB cut on my vocal. As you can see here, I've got this around 389, doing about a 3.5 dB cut there. Then the second most important cut here is around 2K. It's usually right on 2K. That's where you get that really bright nasality that cuts through, and my voice just has too much of it in a mix, generally speaking, and so I almost always do a cut there, so you can play around with that as it relates to your voice. And then I just have a low cut and a high cut. Low cut is especially important here because you don't need anything below 100 hertz, generally speaking, so I've got that about at around 80 or 90. And then a high cut, because this is a classic retro sound, you don't need anything above 10 or 11K generally on the lead vocal, so that's why we're doing that. Alright, now the next three plugins here are a part of what I call my three-step compression system. This is a system that I've developed as a default setting for my vocals that just works 95% of the time, and I love this approach. So basically what this is a balance compressor to start, then a glue compressor, then a punch compressor. So that's how I visualize, that's how I think about what I'm doing with these compressors. So we'll start with the balance compressor. This is all about volume balance. We're not shaping the tone or anything with this first compressor here. All this is doing is shooting down any any loud volume parts of the vocal, because the vocals are very transparent, and so there's a lot of dynamic shifts generally with a vocal, so you want to even that out, you want to balance that out. That's why I call it the balance compressor.
Started out with a kiss,
as you can see here,
it end up like this. It was only a kiss, it was only a kiss.
It's doing quite a bit of ducking down on all those loud parts. So generally with the balance compressor, fast attack, fast release, and you should be good to go. So that's the balance compressor. The next compressor we're going to add here is what I call the glue compressor. Now this is a trick that I learned from Joe Gilder over at Home Studio Corner, just a great guy, and this is a trick basically where I think you can do this on most stock compressors. If you have a vintage style, you probably won't be able to do this, but in a stock compressor, in Studio One at least, I can drop the ratio all the way down, threshold all the way down. You want medium attack, medium release, right around 30 for both, which is what I have here. And then what you want to do is slowly bring the ratio up. And because at 1:1, that means there's no compression happening. But with the threshold all the way down, that means it's compressing everything. Right? So if I were to put this up at like 4:1 with the threshold all the way down, like it completely squashes it. So you want to start here and just slowly bring this up.
And she's calling a cab while he's having a smoke, and she's taking a
yeah, so we have around 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction happening here, and this is the compressor that really starts to glue the track together. That's why I call it the glue compressor. So that's what I'm doing there. And then the third one is what I call the punch compressor, and this one I use the fat channel inside of Studio One. This is a vintage style compressor that sounds amazing. And what we're doing here, again, the goal of this compressor is to make it really punch and shape the tone and bring it to the front of the mix and be in your face. That's what it's all about. So we have, so this is doing between 5 and 8 dB of gain reduction. So it's squashing it a little bit. We have a fairly fast attack, fairly fast release, and then we're just doing about 5 to 7 dB of gain reduction. So that's what's happening there. Those are the three compressors, and we are good to go.
Gotta be down because I want it all.
Now, here's where we get fun. So the red light distortion, again, you can use any distortion that you have in your DAW. Doesn't matter, just use some type of distortion that can give it this kind of tone quality.
Gotta be down because I want it all. Started out with
it gives it that crunch that you hear in the original. Now, if you pay attention to the original, you can hear that it's filtered out in the first part of the verse, and then when the drums and the bass come in, that filter disappears, so then you do get the high frequency information from the vocals. But the first part, right after the intro, it's filtered out. It's got a little bit of this going on. And so what I did here is I just brought in an EQ. I selected the high cut filter here on my EQ, selected it, and then just moved it around in Studio One, hit automate, and then that opened up an automation lane where I then automated, as you can see here. Right here, we're automating
Cause I want it all.
And then here.
Started out with a kiss. How
And then
did
it opens
end
up.
like this? It was only a kiss. It was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep.
And then we're back to normal filter levels. So that is a great move. Again, filter automation is one of the easiest ways to add interest to your tracks. Just try it out on a bunch of things and it can make such a difference. Okay, and then finally to finish up the vocal, I have Sausage Fattener, which I've automated to only come in during the big chorus section at the end here. So the color is the only knob that I'm using here. It's at 21%. And I did that because when you bring in all that extra instrumentation, the vocal can often get lost in the mix. And I like to use harmonic exciters like this rather than doing an EQ boost generally if I want to, at a certain part of the song, bring the vocal closer to the front of the mix so it doesn't get drowned out by that extra instrumentation. All right, so now let's get into the send effects that are happening here. We've got a reverb, a delay, and a slap delay. So it's pretty straightforward. Let's real quick run through those. Again, I've automated these. I don't want them throughout the entirety of the song. For the verse here, it's completely dry. See, there's nothing happening here. And then for this part, I did bring in a little bit of this Vox delay here.
Now I'm falling asleep and she's calling a cab.
So over here I have my effects channels set up and I've got the Vox delay. I'm just using Valhalla. It's a quarter note triplet and that's pretty much it. It's a very standard delay and I just messed with the parameters until I got a sound that I thought sounded cool. The important thing is there's a low cut and there's a high cut. It's very important often for delays and reverbs that you make sure that you don't have too much mud in the low end or too much crispiness in the high end on delays and reverbs, unless that's the exact tone you're going after. And then right after this delay, I did put a reverb on it as well, so it washes that delay just a little bit.
Just now he takes off.
Now I've got the plate reverb here and I've automated this to come in only during the chorus. So there's no plate reverb the entirety of the song until we get to the big chorus where I bring in just a little bit of it.
Jealousy, turning saints into the sea, swimming.
And then finally just a little bit of slap delay. Again, it's not...
And my stomach started out with...
Okay, yeah, so the slap delay is automated so you don't have it in this filtered part at the first half of the verse.
It was only a kiss, now I'm falling.
But then I did let the slap delay come in from the last half of the verse all the way through the rest of this remake here. So again, we've just got a simple plate reverb here, Valhalla vintage verb, very standard, and then the slap delay as well, very standard, nothing crazy going on there. Now let's hop over to the background vocals, and as I mentioned earlier, we already have these doubles here, which is pan left and right.
Fine, gotta be down because
Now a big thing that makes those doubles sound so good is I'm sending them to the same slap delay that I just mentioned with the lead vocal. I'm sending them to that slap delay. So let's move this up here. So these tracks, these doubles are all being sent to the background vocals bus here. That way I can process everything on the same bus. And as you can see here, we're sending it, a good bit of it, to the slap delay, and that gives it that nice sound.
I want it all. Started out with a kiss. How did it end up like this? It was on.
Now let's look at these vocals right here. So these, I look at these as basically being a gang vocal for the chorus. It's doing the exact same melody as the lead vocal. But what I'm doing differently is, one thing that I'm doing is I'm holding my hands in front of my face when I'm recording these. So as you can hear, these are very filtered out.
Jealousy, turning saints into the sea.
And they're also very compressed, which is fine because they're supposed to be in the back of the mix. They're not supposed to pop out or do anything crazy. You want to kind of keep them squashed a little bit. At least for this song, that was the case. So real quick, let's go over what I did with the gang vocals. So we've got these 4 tracks, and obviously to make it much easier, I selected all of them and I added bus for selected channels so that they all go through this bus so I can process them on one channel. So we've got a basic compressor here. Again, that's just for volume control and balance. That's like a standard balance compressor. And then for the EQ, I just did a low mid cut, which I almost always do on any background vocals in the 300 to 400 range. So that's what's happening there. And then I am sending this gang vocals bus to the background vocals bus as well. And then what we have here on the background vocals bus is JJP vocals, which I just threw this on here just because it's fast and easy, and it's not as important as, I didn't put this on the lead vocal because I found that this plugin works better for pop. For this kind of rock or alt rock vocal, I like to go at it with a little bit more of an organic approach where I add in my own compressors and EQs, and I think it sounds more natural and sounds better. But for the backgrounds, it was just an easy way to slap that on there and make that work. So yeah, and then I just have a cut in the 2 to 5K range on the backgrounds, which I often do as well to make sure that the lead vocal takes precedence. Alright, so that's it for the vocals. Now let's hop over to the electric guitars, which there are a lot of them. That is what really drives the song, is the electric guitars. Let's start at the intro here. We've got this riff. Now, I didn't know this riff well enough, so I did have to cheat a little bit, as you can see here, where I did that isolated. And then I just looped that. Now, I'll leave a link in the description for a video on how to play this on electric guitar. It's a bit tough, and which is why I had to cheat here, because I hadn't practiced it enough, but it is very rewarding. It's a really fun riff to learn, so I highly recommend it if you are a guitar player to go check that out once you're done with this. So that is what's happening there. Let's look at the processing of this real quick. So for all of these guitars, I used the standard stock Ampire plugin in Studio One. This is just a stock amp modeling plugin that I use for all my amps and all the electric guitar sounds. So what we have here is just, I started with the American Overdrive preset, and then I just made slight adjustments from there. Which is basically what you have to do. You just experiment with these things. You start with the preset, which I love to do, and then just edit it from there. Start where it's close and then edit it from there. And then I've got OTT, listen how it sounds without it, and then with it. Huge difference, right? And OTT is just a game changer. It's so fast. I love these plugins where you can just throw it on and it makes the difference that you want. It does exactly what you want it to do. And then after that, we've just got an EQ filtering off a bunch of the highs, because that's what I was hearing in the original. There's not a lot of high-end frequency information for that guitar riff. And then Mix Tool is just the plugin that I use for volume automation. I don't usually like to do the faders. I'll right-click the gain and then automate that if it needs to be different from one section to the next. So that's why that Mix Tool plugin is there. Now let's move on to what we have here. So something changes. Notice how this riff stays the same, but it changes in how it's being processed.
It was only a kiss. It was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep.
Hear that?
Smoke, and she's taking it.
What is happening there? Well, one, it's moving away from the left, so that first guitar was panned all the way left. This guitar is panned down the middle. But what's happening here is I'm sending it to an effects channel which has micro shift on it, which is like some form of a doubler or stereo width effect. It's from Sound Toys. It sounds absolutely incredible. But this is what I heard in the original. It has that doubler kind of effect on it.
It was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep, and she's calling the cab.
Now, you might be asking, why didn't you put that directly on the track? Well, the reason is because Ampire, for whatever reason, doesn't support moving the track to stereo, so it has to stay mono, and so I can't add stereo with effects directly on the track, so I had to add it as an effects channel. So that's why I did that. So yeah, we have micro shift over here. As you can see, it's just the standard default setting there. And then I'm just sending this to the same plate reverb that we used on the vocals. And that is what we got.
And my stomach is sick, and it's all in my head, but she's touching his chest.
And then here I implemented two, a left and a right guitar. I added those in, and these are doing just straight up power chords, as you can hear. Let me solo these. So it's doing 6 chord, 5, 4, and then does that on the 4. Again, 6. 5, and then it cuts out because you have this little bass and drums thing happening. And this is a powerful technique that the original does, where it cuts it out, or it cuts some of the instrumentation back right before the payoff section hits. And that's a great way to increase anticipation and to increase dynamics, because then it makes that, when that chorus comes in, it makes it all the more powerful. Listen to this. Right? Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say 6 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, then what I recommend you do is go check out my Essential Music Theory crash course. It's absolutely free. It's just a 20-minute video to help you write better melodies and better chord progressions, and it's going to really help you out, again, if you don't understand what I'm talking about when I say the 6 chord. Go check that out. Link is in the description. Again, it's absolutely free, and I think it'll really help you out to start having a better understanding of the why behind the chords that you use, and it'll help you write songs that are more interesting. Now, when it comes to these power chords, I don't have the exact same preset or the exact same amp settings on both of them. I made them a little different so it can sound, so the left and the right, because they're pan hard left and hard right, they're playing the exact same thing, but that's often the right move, is to create some distinction between the two and don't use the exact same amp preset on both. It can really help also if you have 2 electric guitars. Use the one left and the one on the right. That can make a huge difference to help that stereo spread. I only have 1 electric guitar, so I wasn't able to do that. But if you do, like, that is 100% the move to make. Alright, so we have those power chords there that are doing their thing, and then we've got this little riff that you can hear in the original as well. Right, it's doing something like that. So it's just doing that little melody line. And then this is, I just fuzzed this out with a bunch of fuzz. And I added the fuzz box here, started with a preset, and then added the fuzz to really make that punch. And then I also added the red light distortion plugin to give it even more drive, because I wanted that really fuzzy drive sound. So it's doing that there for these 2 parts, and then here again, right before the chorus hits. Now this is pan left at the moment, but as you can see here, I've automated the pan so it comes down the middle when the chorus hits. And the reason I did that was, so we've already got the power chord on the left, a power chord on the right, and now this fuzz guitar I played the exact same power chords, except this one is down the middle now. See? So we've got the power chords on the left, on the right, and then we've got this one. And it helps it drive it home even more. Alright, and finally, and this is, I love melody lines on guitars, and that is exactly what you hear in the original as well. So this is the line, right when the chorus hits, you know. Going from the 3rd note in the scale to the 5. 3, 5, down to the 2, and then 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 5-1, 3-1, 4-1, and then it's doing the exact same thing. So I just panned that left and right. I think I went 50 left and 50 right because I thought it sounded a little better, since we have been doing everything hard left and right. I thought it sounded better to just go 50 left, 50 right on these 2. Right? It really adds that ear candy for the chorus. And it's very simple leads. I'm not doing anything that complex here. It's very simple. Alright, so that's it for the electric guitars. Now let's hop over and check out what the bass guitar is doing. So we've got this purpley track right here. This is the bass, and it comes in during the second half of the verse. Notice how distorted and saturated it is? Now, as far as what I'm playing here is, I'm starting on the 1. We're in the key of C sharp major. 1, 7, down to the 4. 1, 7, down to the 4. Yeah, so that's what's happening there in the verse. Now, how did I get that really saturated sound? It's very simple. So we've got the guitar tuner, we don't need that. So I use the Waves guitar amp for this, and I just went with a standard bass amp settings there. And then we've got an EQ here, which is not really doing, actually, yeah, this is doing something. This is, so for this part, in the original, I heard that the bass, that didn't seem to be all the sub frequencies for this section of the song. There's more of the lows and the low mids, but not the really low below 100 hertz. So I filtered it out, as you can see here. But then here, I bring it back to normal, and then you do have those low frequencies popping through there. So again, filter automation is the key. It's so simple. It just takes some time. Just go track by track and add and just experiment with different filter automations. It can change your song so much for the better. Okay, so we have that. Now we have a fat channel, which all I did, this is just a tube compressor to just really help it compress a little more. It's not doing a ton there, but it does add a little bit of tube saturation. And then for the rest of the saturation, soft tube saturation knob. Again, this is a free plugin, and notice how I have this absolutely cranked.
Started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this?
See, it's just a standard bass guitar, right? Oh, it squashes it, saturates the heck out of it. I love the way it sounds. And after that, then we just have the OTT. Again, that helps to bring it to the front of the mix, so it for sure doesn't get lost, so you can really hear it. That's what the OTT is there for. And then again, Mix Tool is just for volume automation to make certain parts louder and not as loud throughout the track. So, and then I'm doing some of those lines. Of course. 6, 5. So it's 1, 4, 6, 5. Notice how I went to the high octave there. Again, that's something as a bass player. Even if you're just doing it on a keyboard or MIDI, experiment with different octaves. Don't always go to the same low octave. Sometimes go high to add some interest and some variation. So that's what we're doing with the bass guitar. Now let's hop over to the drums. Now, with these drums, I have two different drum kits. I have the first one, which you hear that's panned right in the first half of the verse.
Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. I gotta be down because I want it all. With a kiss, how did it end up like this?
Okay, now, how did I get this kind of sound? Well, for starters, it's just a standard. That's what we're happening here. Boom, cha, boom, cha-ba, boom, cha, boom, cha-ba, boom, right? Very straightforward and simple there. Now, the hi-hat pattern here was the tricky part. So what I recommend you do when it comes to getting these super fast hi-hat patterns to sound realistic and to sound good is either use your keyboard or your pad. I use my pad because I have one, but you can use a keyboard as well. And try to get just a snippet, just enough, maybe just even a bar. See, that's what it did here. This is just copied and pasted for these 4 parts. I got it right for that. I just went, you know, did whatever I thought felt right. And then as soon as I had one for that length of time that sounded good, I just looped it. Now again, like I always say, these are not quantized. Notice how these are very off the grid. That's the whole point. It's not going to sound nearly as natural. It's not going to sound as good if it's 100% quantized. Okay, and I also love how that's panned right and the guitar is panned left and the vocal down the middle. It's beautiful stereo spread happening there. Now, as soon as the first half of that verse comes to an end and we and the elements go in, so we've got this little, that little fill there. And we're doing the same kind of thing with the hi-hats again here, right? So we're doing the same kind of thing, experimenting, getting a snippet of time where I can get it to where it's really close and then make a couple edits if need be, but then just duplicate that and then roll with it from there. And the pattern with the kick and the snare, again, it's the exact same pattern, right? Yeah. very straightforward. And then I have this fill here. And then here for the pre-chorus, the hi-hat pattern changes to where all we have is just a straightforward open hi-hat pattern. So this is one of the things that makes this song so great, is the variations throughout. Everything from the guitars to the drums to the vocals, filter automations. It's not static. It always is moving to a new place and keeping you engaged and interested in the song. So that's what's happening there. Let's look real quick at what I have in Addictive Drums here. So I'm using Addictive Drums. I started with the Studio Pop Rock Buzz preset from the Studio Pop pack. Again, they have different packs that you can buy from them. I'm a huge fan of Addictive Drums, and then I just made slight adjustments as needed. And then as far as the processing beyond what was in the plugin, I threw a bunch of compression on this. As you can hear, it's really punching it. That's without it. Huge difference. Like that, you need that for a rock drum kit. You need some of that extra bite, that extra compression. It just makes such a difference. And then I just made a couple cuts with the EQ down at around 350 as well as around 3K. Notice the pattern of cutting things between 2K and 5K that are not the vocal, because that's where the vocal lives. That's if you cut some things in that range, that can really help the vocal to cut through and not be distracted by other things that live in that range. So that pattern continues, and then here it changes again. So for this, I just did da 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 da, right? And then I added in some toms to build the tension as well. So I just straightforward tom thing happening here, right? Very straightforward, very basic, and then it plows forward into that beat chorus. Where we have the cymbals. Again, it's extremely straightforward. All we have, I've also left the open hi-hat in there as well. I thought it sounded cool, and then with the cymbals there, really helped the chorus to stand out and lift the song to a new place. Alright, that's it for the drums. One more quick thing that I added here is just a string patch. This is just an omnisphere sound, and all I'm doing is an octave and a fifth. So we're in the key of C sharp, so I'm doing C sharp, C sharp, so like on a keyboard, C sharp, and G sharp. And that sounds like this. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope it was valuable and helpful to you. Now, if you want to learn more about the production process and what that looks like and how to build a song from start to finish, I want to give you a gift. It's called the 5 steps to a Spotify level production. The point of this guide is to help you get to the place faster where you can create and produce songs that fit within a Spotify curated playlist. That's the benchmark, right? That's the goal. And so I think this is really going to help you get there faster, give you a plan, give you an idea of how this works, how to build a song and flesh it out from start to finish. So I'll leave a link in the description below. It's absolutely free. So go check that out, and I will see you in the next video. Happy music making. See ya.
Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want it all. Started out with a kiss, how did it end up like this? It was only a kiss, it was only